Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm so pleased to be joined by Christa Miller, who plays Liz in the Apple TV Plus comedy series Shrinking, which is a hilarious show. And Christa, obviously, I guess what was it about, Shrinking and Liz in particular, that really interested you in the role? Obviously, I know your husband, Bill Lawrence, is co-creator, and you know Brett Goldstein as well. But I mean, how did you kind of get involved into this, I guess?
I think Brett had started, a while ago, and I think probably during the pandemic, and he was writing this dark show about therapy, and I'm in therapy, and I just really was drawn to it. And he's like, "I'm writing a part for you. The name is Christa in the script." I'm like, "I want to do that." And then Bill was also, and I, have a crush on Brett, so of course I want to do anything that he wants to do that has my name in it. But then Bill wanted to do more of a comedy take on it, and they decided to merge, and it completely spoke to me. I really, they had been working on it for like a year and a half before they'd even pitched it, and other things were coming in, and people were starting to go back to work, and my agents were saying, I was like, I want to do Shrinking. I want to do Shrinking. It was like I just knew it, and then all these great people started joining, but I was already wanted to do it.
So, how much, I guess, where do you draw the line between you and Liz, I guess, in as a character versus you in real life? And how did you how close is she, I guess, to, a version of you, I guess?
Well, I think every character, how I work, will have a version of me, and you tap into that part of you that maybe you don't show all the time. I think she's vulnerable. I think she wants to be cool. I think I'm pretty cool, but I think she really wants to be cool and fit in and have a place in her world. And I think she's struggling to find that after just being a mom.
Right. I love how she fits into the world, because I think, and especially your performance, the way you have chemistry with everyone in the cast, and it's different chemistry across the board. I mean, that's, I think, one of the things that I really love about the show too, is that the ensemble is so great. And I guess was that something, for instance, with you and Jessica Williams, who plays Gabby, was that something that that relationship, was that originally planned, or did your relationship or chemistry with Jessica on set make that grow even more as the season went on?
No, and thank you for saying that. It's so interesting, because Bill said to me before I'd even met Jessica, he's like, I really like her because her comedy is different than yours, and you guys are going to have fun chemistry. And I think the way Bill and Debbie and Brett, they're casting, they really cast different people with different chemistry. So it's also, to be honest, every day that you're working with someone different, you don't know what's going to happen. It is different. It makes every day different. I mean, I think that's what life is. We all have a different chemistry with different people. Different people bring out different parts of ourselves. And so I think everyone's trying to keep that going. Jessica and I, they were starting just to write us fun together. And then, our friendship developed from there.
That's great. Do you guys how much, I guess, is there a lot of improv on the set in that case, or not really? And how much of it is just kind of you were how do you kind of balance that, I guess, especially with Jessica, I guess?
Well, it's really on the page, and Bill doesn't have an ego about improvising or things like that, but it's really on the page. So we definitely get a couple takes where everything's on the page, and then he'll let us try things. And then if whatever's funnier, he'll put on in the show. And that's how we do it. So sometimes we have fun, and sometimes things don't work, but it's really safe set. I always like it when I've had 5 fails a day, that you try a joke and it's crickets, that's a good day because I'm trying. Yeah, but it's usually on the page. The writing is so sharp on that show.
It's really good. Not at the risk of just going through like every cast and because this has a key part, obviously, because you're in everyone's life is designated by the show. But one of the things I love with you and Jason, it's Jason Segel, who plays Jimmy, is he is so frustrated by Liz, and I think he is, as a comic actor, I just love when he is so mad. It's just he's so good at it, and it's very funny. so good. And I guess
And he
like how is
finds the right tone, because you could be really mad because
yes.
she's infuriating. So he could be really mad, but he finds that tone that you know he's mad, but it doesn't feel like scary.
Yes, exactly right. And he's so good at it. And I think like I've seen him do that in other projects, obviously, but in this, it's just great. And I think you are such a great match for him as a performer and the character, obviously, as well for Jimmy. I guess like how did you kind of like was that similar thing with like you were saying like with Jessica, where you kind of like evolved as the show like like get closer, or was that just like immediate? I guess like how did that kind of figure it out?
Well, I had known Jason a little bit before we had started. We've been at a couple of dinner parties together, and then he started coming over to work and meet with Bill at the house. And it was kind of love at first sight for Jason. I'm obsessed with him. I love him, and he's my person. I love him. I love working with him. He's so generous, and whatever you think of Jason, that's who he is. That's like honestly who he is. He's the loveliest person, and we never did small talk. We had a great thing is when our sets weren't built at Warner Brothers yet. So the first 2 weeks of shooting the pilot, we were all in real houses in Pasadena, and our trailers were far away. So we'd all day be in these holding rooms, like at the people's living rooms. And we all just got to know each other really, really well.
That's great. I mean, I think that comes across like in the finished product because, like I said, like the ensemble is great, and you do feel like these are relationships that existed before the show began, right? Like I think that's what's key. That it's just like we're just meeting these people, but they all kind of know each other. Most of the characters, at least, do, and like they have that background, and I think that comes through in the ensemble and the performances.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we definitely are a close cast, and there's everyone says this, but it's really true that everyone's lovely on our cast and professional, and people show up like just ready to work. Like it felt special doing it. I felt really grateful to be a part of it.
The other person I wanted to ask you about was obviously Ted McGinley, who plays your on-screen husband. Just hilarious. I love. I mean, you are obviously a comedy legend, I think, and Ted McGinley is also a comedy legend. I've seen him a million
He's
different
a
things.
comedy assassin. He steals any scene away from me. Forget it. Even if I have a little funny thing, he steals it. He's so funny, but he's also so good. We love Ted McGinley. I am in the Ted McGinley fan club. He's also the loveliest man. We laugh way too hard when he's on set. Everyone fights to be in scenes with him.
He's so good, and it's like I mean, like I've loved him. And my reference point for him, I guess, was like Married with Children. Was like when I first saw him, certainly, and was like loved him for Ever Jefferson. I still talk about with like my buds who remember that show as well. But I guess like you guys are so great, and the relationship is really funny, and I think very true to people who have been married probably for a long-term marriage or whatever. So I guess like how was that like? I guess how much of that does that are there aspects of your own marriage and relationship in that on-screen relationship, I guess?
Probably. I know. Probably. Although Bill said Ted has a speech to me that he said to me, you're gonna have to find, I've been working really hard and you're gonna have to find somewhere to be. And Bill goes, it's what I'd like to say to you, because I'm like, Bill, you better get, even now, because there's a writer's strike, unfortunately, sadly, I'm like, Bill, you better stay in your office. You can't be bothering me during the day. And he's like, he wants to say that to me, but he can't. But he can't. But Bill has wanted to work with Ted McGinley forever, and for some reason or another, like Ted one time choked on an audition for a big show and couldn't. And then during the show, he's like, for my husband, they were looking at stand-up comics, and Bill goes, oh my God, what about Ted McGinley? I was like, Ted McGinley, and he's handsome and he's so cute and we love him. Oh, for sure. And then he just hired him. So it was such a great thing.
It's so great. I mean, the other thing about this show that I love is like, I mean, we're talking about, these are like like you, like Ted, Jason Segel, all these have like a great background and like a wealth of knowledge about comedy, right? Like TV comedy. And I think that is what also helps it work really well. Did you notice that too, that knowing, like having done like so many successful shows before, that kind of helps with like nailing what this tone is and like what this is, I guess?
It's a tricky balance on that show. And Jason said it, and I agree with him. There's something fantastic to be able to work on a show that has those moments of grief and vulnerability and sadness, and then to be able to have comedy. And the comedy is coming more out of character characters than like jokes. So it has been a learning experience, which makes things really exciting. Like at the end of the day, I never can sleep. I'm thinking over the day in my head, because also you're trying things that you I know in a broad comedy, if I do, I know what is going to work. And this one was just slightly off kilter and different. And it felt meaningful. I mean, I don't write the show, so I feel like I can brag on it. Tell me if I'm bragging too much.
No, I would love for you to brag on it. I think it's really great. I mean, I do think that it's like, it is very emotional and touching, and like the drama of it, it's obviously a comedy first, but I mean the drama of it and the real, maybe like drama is not even the right word. Maybe like the real emotions that you guys are generating really kind of heightens the comedy too, right? Like it makes it, hit harder. The jokes are funny and everything. It's just like a really great mix. I think that's partially why people have really responded to it, I would imagine.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think the writers really get that tone. They just got it right from the beginning.
Yeah, you're also a music supervisor, right, on this show, which is great, and the music is amazing. And you have, I wrote down like a few ones. I was just like, I love obviously the Phoebe Bridgers song where Jason is like, "Fuck you, Phoebe Bridgers." It's so that scene is so funny. But I guess like why that song, and like were there other choices in that sequence for
No,
that?
we had written it. That was fun because I was able to put it before. When you write it for the scene, it's going to be placed and edited perfectly. My favorite part of that scene is when, he falls over and he's lying, he's crying, and she said, "You're crying that hard already?" Like, he's been crying to Phoebe Bridgers. I don't know why that line killed me.
So good. The other one, obviously, we didn't even mention Harrison Ford, who's on the show, is like an obviously iconic actor and is so good on it. I would say like a scene that people really enjoyed was him and Jessica singing "Every Morning" from by Sugar Ray, just a total banger. And I guess like, is that one again, like, was that written in, or did you have to like try different things, or do you have to approach Harrison and be like, do you know this song? Like he has to know the words for it, obviously. So I was thinking that too, like.
Well, how that went is I asked Jessica to give me a list of songs that she would sing all the time on the, like cheesy songs she would sing. And I thought I just couldn't, like, I was listening to them and I thought I need to find one that it would be believable that Harrison. And then we both, I was like, oh, the Sugar Ray song, that's going to be, Harrison's going to be able to sing that and know that. And that makes sense. And then we all just went crazy for it. I mean, that's also, now I'll never be able to listen to that song without thinking of Harrison.
It's really hard to listen to it now. Yeah, I could hear him singing it in my head. And you have Jessica singing Absolutely Story of a Girl, which I have not really heard in a long time.
I know.
And I love it. And I was like playing it in the car like a couple weeks ago. My daughter is now singing along to it. So I was like, I guess that's how you kind of pass these songs down to the next generations. But was that like on Jessica's list, I guess, too, then for her?
That was on Jessica's list. That was not me. And that was fun to do those because I really we're trying to put in new music and launch new artists and have new music on the show. So it's always fun when I can put music in for Harrison, because I tend to be able to find some of like old favorites like Hall & Oates and things like that. And then like that, I was able to use an older song.
Right. And then when you're looking for new music, I guess like for you, how does that, is that just like, do you have to vibe with it, or like how do you kind of like think about how you want to find new music to put in?
It has to be how I do it is it has to be a standalone song that I love, that I think is like going to be a great song. Because you can put pieces of songs in a show and it'll be great, but then the whole song, I really do standalone songs that I think are going to be great songs, but then I have to find where they're going to fit. And also have to be careful on the show not to do too many sad songs because the subject matter is too heavy. So sometimes I offset it. It's a whole thing. It's wormholes. It's the most fun. It's really fun.
Like how, like, I guess how long, like, it seems like it's probably a lot of like trial and error.
Oh my God. So, well, like on the pilot, we couldn't find a good song that was totally right. There had been a song in before that we couldn't clear. And usually we can clear everything, but we couldn't find a song where they cut to Sean in the boxing ring. And then it's like it's a long song. They couldn't find it. And Zach Braff had picked the song by the Strumbellas called Spirits to be at the end of his episode, which was 106, 108 maybe. So it was way down the line. And Zach, it was a song that he picked from my playlist and he put it in and he's like, I love that song. Thank you for letting me have that song. And then at the last, I was like 8 hours with this pilot, had to be in. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna steal that from, I'm gonna steal it. I go, Bill, what about this? And Bill goes, why didn't you play this for me before? And I hadn't, because I had given it to Zach, and then Zach was like, I can't believe you stole this. But it was fine because we put Rosalind Snap at the end of his episode, and now she's going on tour with Ed Sheeran.
That's great. And that
So it
song,
was,
that Strumbella song is Spirits, right? Or Spirit
Yeah.
is a great song. Another banger
Thank
that I've
you.
played multiple times since watching Shrinking, because I think a lot of it's just like you're great at mixing. I think obviously done Ted Lasso too, but you're great at mixing like the music and the imagery, and I just think it's like really a talent, and it's you're very
Thank you.
good. Yeah, it's
Well, the
really fun.
editors help me too. You
Yeah.
know, I'll tell them where to do it. And then we've got some great editors on our show, and they just they make it sing. And when I always know with a song, you just get goosebumps. You're like, that's the song. And when I get goosebumps and Bill doesn't quite agree with me, because he's the only person I battle with, I'm just like, Bill, it's goosebumps. You just gotta just listen again.
That's good. And I think obviously you're trusting you is probably a smart bet on that front. I guess like you said, like season it will come back for season 2, hopefully, once the writer's strike is over. And I guess like what are your hopes for Liz? And I mean, like, I think she's a great character, and you're so good in the part. Like, how have you thought about like where she evolves, I guess, into season 2, or like what can you say without like giving stuff away that maybe
I think that Liz has to figure out what she's doing with her life. And I think it's going to be difficult, because I think it's difficult to just from thin air decide what you want to do to be busy. It's hard to get motivated in that way. And I have a couple of friends who were in that very same situation. I was with them when their kids left and they were lost. And I think it's really difficult. Both of them now have successful businesses, which is so cool. And I can't believe it. Like, really, but the years that they were figuring it out was difficult.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's going to be where Liz is going to be this season.
I guess the last thing was, I know, I guess the one thing I was reading another interview you did, and her rock collecting, right, is something you do, right, in real life.
Yeah.
Is that true? So how is that going for you now in real life? How's that going?
Well, it's the writer's strike, so it's going very well. I just found I had a secret source, and I found a bunch of agates because I collect agates, and I can't even tell you, I've been sawing them. As soon as we're finished, it's time for rock work. I'm taking off makeup, and it's time to do rock work.
That's amazing. I love it so much. So Christa Miller, I'll let you go get to that. Shrinking, all the episodes are on Apple TV Plus. You should absolutely watch it. It's a great show. And Christa, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. I really appreciate your kind words.